Hola amigos, this is level 12 and today we are going to be asking ourselves, is fan fiction real writing? Now, as someone who likes to write and read both fan fiction and, normal published books, I was thinking of this question and I'm like, well, is it? Because I used to write fan fictions. My old Wattpad account, which I've deleted, I think one of my stories got up to 10,000 views, and it was a fanfiction of Corpse Party. I still have a fanfiction.net account, though I don't post anything. I think there's one story up that was also on my Wattpad, and it's Vince X Shell story from the 400 Days. Don't question it. Don't question it. I don't think there's anything else on there, not that I can think of at least. But yeah, so if you're thinking I'm just hating on people who write fan fictions, no, I still read fan fictions, and I even have one rolling around in my head for Hitalia, but I just want to delve what is writing and how fan fiction can both hinder and help people who are getting into writing, because, we all have to start somewhere. So first I want to ask, what is this quote-unquote real writing? Because everyone can put an arbitrary label on something. Like, I know a bunch of people say, oh, digital art isn't real art, or anime art isn't real art, and stuff like that. And I just wanted to say, well, I feel like this is kind of the version. Doujinshis could also fall into this category of what is real writing? Is it counted as real writing? And we'll discuss that more along in the video. So for what is quote unquote real writing, I feel like these are four things that you need, and for these four things are just the building blocks of writing. This is what gets you a story, not necessarily a good one, but it gets you a story along the way. You need a storyline and a plot. That's just the basis. Before you even start writing, I would suggest you have some kind of outline. I learned a really good outline called, what is it? I haven't used it, because I haven't written anything since, like, August, which may not sound like a long time, but for me it's a long time. It is, cause, resolution, cause, effect, action. It works. I just have to get back into it, but that's how I outline my plots and stuff. A believable and creative setting. You can have a creative setting and it be believable. Like, if you're not really good at writing, like, Tolkien level fantasy stuff, you don't have to do that. You can have a really good setting just in a normal person's house, in an apartment building, at school, in a jail, anywhere you can think of that you feel like you could express really well in a story and fits with the plot and the characters, then that's your setting, man. I had likable characters on here, but I changed it to relatable-ish characters, because you don't want to create angel characters, because no one is a perfect saint. That just doesn't happen. Even some of our most favorite characters have flaws. Surely if you pull back the veil of your doting for your favorite character, you'll find flaws in there. Now, children fandoms and characters won't really have as many flaws or as easy to find flaws, but flaws, they still exist. But something that I learned, is you need to have bad things happen to your characters, and you need them to have some air of humanity. Like, oh, maybe you have this really great student character, like super studious, but when they go home, they're just a jerk. Or when they go home, they just pig out and eat a lot, like an ungodly amount of food. Like, there has to be something bad, not something major. Like, maybe they're a really good student, but they, like, pick their teeth in public or something like that. Something along those lines. You need to give them, like, those kind of slightly irritating traits. And things need to happen. This goes back to the storyline and plot. You can't just have nothing happen for words and words on end. And whenever I go to Archive of Our Own, or I go to fanfiction.net, because Wattpad is a mess in its current state, I really don't like reading stories that are super long, because I always have this fear that nothing is gonna happen, but sometimes you just have to take that nosedive. You just have to take the nosedive. So, what do fanfictions have? Most have a decent plot, unless it's a one-shot or a lemon. Now, one-shots and lemons I feel like it's their own kind of secular thing of fanfictions. I don't even feel they're in the realm of the type of fanfictions I'm talking about, or the type that I thought of when I originally made had this idea, but I have to talk about them anyway, because they're such a big part of what the fanfiction sphere is, and one-shots can have a plot, but usually one-shots are short, shipping, romance, not necessarily lemon stuff, but it's not really heavily plot-based, should I say. The setting is usually borrowed from the fandom. I put fandom for some reason, I'm sorry. But it's not always, especially like, if you do an AU or you have such a big world to choose from, and I'll get more into that on other slides, but usually it's borrowed from the fandom. Characters, unless it's an OC, are also borrowed, because obviously fanfiction, the main part of a fanfiction is the characters or leading off from the plot, but mostly the characters. Depending on the type of the story, literally nothing or everything can happen. Like, I've read some stories where, like, it's just some philosophical talk, and I'm like, I did not come here for this. And then sometimes so much happens in so little time, and I'm just like, what? Like, I was reading a Walking Dead story, and like, everyone got pregnant at the end. I swear to God, everyone was pregnant at the end. I don't know how that happened, but whatever. So those are what fanfictions have. And now we're going to get into some issues with fanfictions. I'm not really going to get into the issues of writing that isn't fanfiction, because there's tons of things you can go into, but this is basically fanfiction as it relates to real writing, and we'll get into that. So some issues with fanfictions is, if it's a one-shot or lemon, there's little to no plot, and it keeps the writer in a safe space. One-shots and lemons, they're usually short, and the writer doesn't really have to think of an ongoing story, and it keeps them from making that outline. Like, something I thought I'd never say, but you need an outline. I used to hate making outlines, but if you're gonna write something that's long, you need an outline. You cannot do things without an outline. You just can't. It's like trying to, like, go and play some sport without a game plan. It's like, it don't work. It don't work. And I feel like one-shots keep the writer in this, I never have to think of something beyond, like, 1 or 2 scenes, and, Now, I'm not saying one-shot writers don't have, like, a plan, but it's usually not as, you don't really build up the planning skills. And, another is, unless it's open world, like Italia or The Walking Dead, as I said before, the author is pretty much stuck in the world of the fandom, unless they do an AU. Some fandoms where they might be stuck in the world is, Fullmetal Alchemist. You're really stuck with the limitations of that world, unless you, like, go to the weird alternate time history thing that Ed did in the original Fullmetal Alchemist, or say you're like in One Piece or one of those really heavy fantasy type fandoms. You're really stuck in that unless you do an AU, and then AUs are weird in and of themselves. But yeah, and it kind of doesn't really let the author be creative with settings and practice settings. Yes, another point is, yes, they do know the character they're writing. They have to know the character they're writing about pretty well to write that character and make it believable and make people want to read it. But they still didn't have to come up with the character's design or backstory, and there's an asterisk because there's more to say about that along with those C's. But in short, they really didn't have to come up with a really huge part of writing, which is making a character. When for some people it's really hard. For me, I can make a character decently easily. It's usually dialogue and planning I still have issues with, but for them, the character's already there. They just have to... What I used to do was I would read the wiki a lot until I got a really good sense of the character. Some fanfictions try to pack in so much in that everything and nothing can happen at once, which ties back to the one-shot issue. It's okay to have your fanfiction span more than one book or chapter. There's this one Walking Dead fanfiction on fanfiction.net. I forget who it's by, but the title is Into the Fray, and it's based off the 400 Days, and it spans like 3 books, about 30 chapters each. It is one of the best fan fictions I have ever read, and I'm not kidding. It's really good. It shows you really how to make a fan fiction and make it feel like something other than the source material, which is what I want people to graduate from fan fictions, really, if they want to continue writing seriously. Other issues with fanfictions, and now we're on to something specifically, are OCs. If you don't know what an OC is, you haven't been on the internet long enough. An OC is an original character, and OCs generally get a bad rap, which not OCs are all bad. But I made one video about Hetalia OCs, and you can watch that if you want to make Hetalia OC, or some guidelines for making Hetalia OCs. But every fandom should have different parameters for OCs, and we're just going to get into some issues OCs can have. I don't mind OCs, but there's ways of making OCs work in your story. And again, the Walking Dead fanfiction I talked about earlier did, he did his OC really well. Like, I'm not joking, just... it got on the top 10 featured list for fanfiction.net. The first book did when it originally came out. So this gets the author out of dealing with the cookie cutter preset characters they get from the fandom. Yet OCs can get messy, and I feel like OCs are both good and bad because it makes you come up with a new character, but then also the new character can kind of have God mode. OCs have a habit of being too powerful, which is God mode, and other characters too reliant on the OC. There are some OCs that are like just so powerful and smart. Like, I've read some fanfictions where it was the OC story, and they were so smart and strong, and the other characters just had to rely on them, when those are kind of stupid. And I can say that because I made one of those stories. I used to be so into the 400 Days DLC for the Walking Dead game. I made a fanfiction about my character, and my character was secretly in all of the stories for the 400 Days. I'll link my friend Joanna's book trailer, if she still has it, that she made for that story. But it was, thinking about it now, I'm just like, it's so terrible, because I literally put myself in that story. I used to do that with all of my fanfictions. I just wanted to be the character in them, which we'll get into a little bit more as well. OCs are as I said before, OCs are sometimes just the author doing a personal reader insert, which was literally half of my Wattpad account, which is why I ended up deleting it, because I felt like I couldn't make original stories, because what a lot of people had come there for was my fanfictions, and I didn't want to do that anymore. When I stopped writing, because I stopped writing fanfictions a long time ago, and I'm now just recently wanting to start to do them again, because I know I can do more than that. I was so stuck in a rut of fanfictions, I'm not gonna lie, that I just deleted the account. Because I didn't want to be known for that anymore, and I feel like a lot of people, when they write fan fictions and it's just a fan fiction account, they can get that way. A story can sometimes have too many OCs, and it makes me think, why not write your own story? I actually did an interview with someone through Wattpad, because I ran an account for like 2 months of a magazine, because I saw it for anime and I wanted to do one for just general nerd stuff, and I asked her where she got her idea, and she told me that it was originally a fan fiction for Devil May Cry, and I think it was based off the video game of Devil May Cry. And then she was like, well, hey, I've branched off from the story so much, I have my own characters, why don't I just make my own story? And she's currently a published author right now, so you can start with making fan fictions and then become a published author. Like, the leap isn't that far, my friend. Just get out of your comfort zone. And just, I feel like when a story gets bogged down too much with OCs, it's just meh. It's just gross, okay? OCs are perfectly fine, as long as they aren't the reason for writing the story. Like, if you come up with an OC and then you're like, yes, beautiful story. But I feel like people who make stories where, now this isn't every OC, but I've read some stories where people are like, their OCs are just always the front focus. If you're gonna do that, just make your own story. Like, it can be scary because the fandom on Wattpad, especially because fanfiction.net and Archive of Our Own are dedicated to just fanfictions, but Wattpad, you have this chance of putting your story out there, and it's an original story, and no one's gonna see it because you can't put those juicy fanfiction tags in there. But if you do a fanfiction, you can put those juicy fanfiction tags in there, and people will find it and like it because they're part of the same fandom. Don't let other people dominate your writing. Don't do that. Trust me. If you're ever worried about someone not liking your writing, just send it to me. Jesus Christ. I will read it, and I will give you pointers. I am that nice. Geez, I sounded like a jerk just then. But again, just don't be fear-mongered. Like, sometimes I'm fear-mongered and no one reads my writing unless I ask them to, and whatever, man. I know the mind's powerful, but you gotta be stronger than those intrusive thoughts. If you make an OC and they're the reason you're writing the fan fiction, as I said before, put them in an original work. OCs work best as supporting characters. Back to the Walking Dead fan fiction I was talking about. There was this original character. There was quite a few as they added more and more original characters, and it worked really well. And I even forgot that some of them weren't actually in The Walking Dead because they were integrated so well. But the first OC that he introduced was a little girl named Annie, and she was one of the main OCs that kept on reoccurring, and she was at first just a supporting character until by the third book you actually got to learn who she was and start caring for her. I'm not saying you can't make an OC a front focal, if you will, but you have to let your audience build up to liking them, because they already like the other characters. If you're gonna make an OC the front focal, why should we care about them, is another good point that I didn't put on here, that I didn't think of till just now, but, yeah, that's another slight issue with OCs. We already know the characters from the fandom, and we already have some form of caring about them. That's why we clicked on the story. Like, I'm not going to click on a Nordic Italia fanfiction because I don't care for the Nordics, and I would be stupid in saying, oh, this was terrible fanfiction because I don't like the Nordics. But if you're going to introduce an OC, we have to get to know them like we know the other characters. Like, it's like you're bringing in a new dog, and when you bring a new dog into my house, I have to get used to the dog before I start liking the dog. You get me? The final issues with fanfictions are reader inserts. They are usually made in a slightly romantic way / one-shot like, and again, that falls into the trap of the author doesn't have to go out the comfort zone and worry about making a long, continuous, stretching story. Sometimes they feel like the author's wet dream, which is weird and meh. Some fanfictions are really made for one group of people, and I'm just like, oh, hello. Didn't know you existed. I'm gonna go clean my eyeballs with bleach now. Just saying. Sometimes it be like that sometimes. Since most are meant to bring other people pleasure, it doesn't help your writing ability. I don't feel like writing a lot of smut helps your writing ability. I'm just gonna say that right here and now. Really quietly. Real ASMR-like. Because it just doesn't help. Can anyone honestly say 50 Shades of Grey, the book, was that good? Patrick explained to us the ingenious behind 50 Shades of Grey, but content-wise and symbolism-wise, like, writing should have so much more into it, or it can't, it doesn't always, but sometimes, if you want to make something really great, it should have all these hidden, well, somewhat hidden meanings and symbolism and yada yada, just things that make it not just smut, okay? Just meh. I get it. Reader inserts have such a bad rap. And it kind of deserves it, it kind of doesn't, because I've made a reader insert or two. Actually, yeah, I made two. I made two Italia ones. One was for Italy, one was for Germany. Yeah. Nothing is wrong with reader inserts-ish. However, the best way to handle one is to not treat it like a reader insert. Oh my gosh. Reader inserts have a known tendency to be... It comes with its own vocabulary. And a lot of reader inserts, their first chapter is explaining what these symbols means. YC usually means your character. HC means hair color. EC means eye color. FC means favorite color. LM usually means last name. Or LN means last name. Or... and it, like, bogs the story down a little bit, though I did read one reader insert, and it's currently on hiatus because the summer has ended and it's for the gorillas, and I keep on forgetting that it is a reader insert, because one, a lot of reader inserts are in second person, when it's such a bad way to do, like, second person, first of all, is a very interesting writing way, and I don't I like writing in second person, but when it's a reader insert, because all reader inserts or most reader inserts are in second person, you just kind of keep on knowing you're reading a reader insert, and it's this weird out of body experience. But this one fanfiction, oh gosh, I just shook my whole desk. One fanfiction wrote in first person, and I think it only asked your name twice. And it only had the like YC thing twice. It did not utilize any of that stuff that much. It kept the character very bland, very like the typical plain Jane like description, because a lot of reader inserts like to say, I ran a hand through insert your character hair colors here, and it was it does that, and it just like it kind of disconnects you from the story. Like it I believe reading should take you into another world, and you shouldn't know that you're reading when you're reading, you know? And that just kind of breaks the illusion. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with reader inserts, as technically any type of second person story could technically, if you want to call it a reader insert, but just fanfictions can do better with how they treat reader inserts. So my final verdict on fanfictions, and if it's real writing, we've gone through the issues with them and how to help them, but this is my final verdict on our fanfictions real writing. Okay. Well, I do like fanfictions, and I said before, I write a few myself, and I've been thinking about writing one whenever I get that time. I cannot fully say I believe they are real writing. And I say this because, again, you're borrowing a lot of stuff from the fandom, and some people, excuse me, rarely make new. There's nothing new in their writing, and every time you need to write, it needs to be something new, it needs to be something original. I know that's hard, but you have to try, or else you're just a fraud. Ugh. I believe fanfictions can be a stepping stone into real writing, as fanfictions help build essential tools for writing, such as playing with language, simile, metaphor, flow, sentence structure, stuff like that. Perspective, there's about 4. There's first person, third person limited, third person omniscient, and the reader insert second person. Try second person. Well, I guess you can't really do that with fanfictions, but I was about to say try second person, yet it still be like a character, but that would just be weird. And dialogue, I hate reading stories without dialogue. I read one full story that had no dialogue, and I'm just like, kill me now. Dialogue breaks up the monotony of the really long paragraphs, and how a person talks really shows their character development. However, this is mostly in the Italian fandom. I would steer clear from doing, like, Germans, well, stereotypically Germans can't pronounce W, so what would become wat, and things like that. Just because it, like, for me, it slows down the reading, but, don't write in dialect unless you can do dialect really well, don't write in dialect, but there are very few people who can write in dialect really well. However, if one is forever stuck in the rut of doing fanfictions and not branching out, then I feel the era of real writing dies. Like, if all you do is fanfiction and you still claim you're a real writer, honey, I can't allow you to continue. Now, I know some fan games and doujinshis are super popular, but those really haven't. You're really in those, I see, you're taking the characters and then just putting them in a different setting, different plot. All you're doing is borrowing the characters. Not all of your characters should be borrowed, but it is a good stepping stone. And I can't say don't stop writing fanfictions, because I know if I was, like, still doing as heavily fanfictions as I was and I saw this video, I would probably not click on it, or if I would watch it and get super upset. But I'm not saying you can't write fanfictions and can't be happy just writing fanfictions. What I'm saying is, if you want to branch out and become a better writer, you have to leave the fanfiction community slowly but surely. Just disconnect yourself from them, and you'll be fine. I'm not saying fanfictions are bad. I'm just saying they sometimes can hinder a writer. Because I know it hindered me. At least the account I had with all the fanfictions hindered me. So that's it for this video. I know it's not a Hetalia video, but I felt really passionate about this topic, and I thought I could explain it decently well because I think I'm a decent writer. I will link my friend Joanna's trailer that she made for the book that I don't think ever exists on the internet anymore. I don't know, maybe you can still find my old Wattpad account. It's this username. If you ever want to find me, just type in this username. I'm probably everywhere. But yeah, that's good. That's good. That's good. But if you want any more writing advice, just leave your questions in the comments, and I'll try to answer them the best I can. I'm currently trying to get into a writing school, so right after this, I'm gonna start writing a short story. Gotta keep up the good work there. And I'm never not busy. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe for more anime and otaku related content. Ciao, chicos.